life works in cycles, and just as the weather has seasons, and the climate does, so does the responsibilities and our state of minds and our way of being. And we're in a constant cyclical nature of progression, regression, expansion, growth, and then to come inwards, time to reflect. And life seems to bob and weave. It's never just one single, like, singularity focus, heading towards a point, and it's just smooth. So the path tends to take you left, then right, then back on yourself, do a U-turn, a 360, go back again. Like, it's constantly moving and constantly changing. And the demands of life and the necessities of what are demanded upon you and the responsibilities are constantly changing and constantly forcing you to adapt. And this is why I think you can't have a concrete idea of who you are, because you're constantly evolving and changing to what's happening out there. And you're kind of in a symbiotic process, a symbiotic relationship of the process of the universe, of things happening. You're constantly internalizing that and changing to relate yourself to the world. And so there is no concrete sense of self. And I think this is kind of true in the way the Buddhists say it, that the sense of self is an illusion. There is no point of view. There is no identity as I am Alex Rogers, and he is stuck and he's rigid. That is a pure illusion. And when you ever feel fragmented or scatty, or when you feel stuck in life, it's because you're holding on to the rigidness. You're holding on to a strict idea of who you are and how you act and how you behave, instead of being fluid and more able to adapt and flow with things. And this is where I think goals and having strict ideas of where you want to be and who you want to be can get in the way, because where you think you want to go and who you think you want to be is often it's a direct contradiction to where you should be going, or the soul's idea or God's idea of where you should be. And I use God in a way of not some guy up in the sky with a preordained will of where you should be going, but kind of like this intuitive nature within yourself to naturally unfold, and the process of how the world's unfolding. That's kind of how I see God. It's a natural unfolding of the universe. It's an intelligence that is playing out in the world. And I think we have ideas of where we want to be. And them ideas and these goals and these narratives, they're cultivated by societal pressures. They're cultivated by the pressures of our family, insecurities, anxieties, fear, who we think we should be. And often the seed of our potential, the growth of who we should be is a lot more subtle and often contradicts society, often contradicts where you think you should be. So I can only really reflect on my own life and when I speak about this, and just see how much dropping of ideals of, like, when I was 20, 21, I wanted to like have loads of money and I wanted to be pursuing a certain career path and be shredded and confident and all these things. And I really did strive towards them, and I really wanted them. And I wanted my life to be like a digital nomad traveling the world. And as I've got older and more mature, and the ideals of youth have broke down, I've come to a much more grounded place, and I see the wisdom and the happiness and the fulfillment in the simple things. My life's a lot slower and more deliberate than I thought it would be. I'm just working a normal job at the minute in a school, saving up to buy a house. Well, I'm applying for a mortgage now, which we've been accepted for, so I'm going to buy a house soon, and I'm going to have responsibilities of paying for bills, council tax, all the stuff that happens. Got a relationship, and life feels a lot more slow. It's deliberate. I'm working towards being a psychotherapist, but it's not as like explosive. My career is not as dynamic as I thought it would be. But things are happening. I feel like I'm in the right place. I feel like things are moving in more of a natural process, and they're not as like scatty and fragmented. And I think when we come from a place of where we think we want to go and where we think we should be, it comes from a place of desperation. It's more comparing ourselves to others and worrying about what we have and what we don't have, what we need to have to impress other people, and we need to live up to what this other person's living up to. And that real place of desperation of who you think you should be and where you should be can really cloud your judgment of the things that are in front of you and the path that is unfolding within you. And why I think you should put an importance on the faith. You should put an importance on faith, having a faith in things are unfolding naturally. And I think this is where to me that having a belief in God or a knowing of God, having a knowing of the greater self, the soul, that things are unraveling, your unconscious is playing out into the world, and you're in this like dialect with your unconscious at all times, and it's kind of like a dance between you and your unconscious. The ego awareness being able to shine light back on the dark parts of your mind, your shadow, and to be able to integrate that into world and let it unfold naturally. And you find that when you do this and you're in this process of self-integration and you're working with the shadow contents and the unconscious, and you've got a faith in something greater than you, God, and you know that the path is unfolding, you seem to arrive into your being more. The best way I can explain it is, before, when I had my ideals, when I had these ideas of who I should be, who I think I am, was that I was trying to be someone in certain places. I was trying to be confident in this place. I was trying to be successful in that place. I was trying to be something. Whereas I think as I've got older and I'd say more wise to my unconscious and aware of who I am, I seem to arrive more. Like I arrive in the places, like I come as I am. Like I arrive into the situation as Alex Rogers, who I am, more authentically. And there seems to be less resistance. A lot of the resistance that I was going through, a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the depression, a lot of the problems I was having was because I was trying to be something. I was trying to portray something. I was trying to do something. But there's like a paradoxical way of to stop trying and you just arrive as you are. And it is very less resistant. You're more fluid, you're more flux. And you feel more happy within yourself. You feel more like things are aligned. Things don't feel as scatty and fragmented and shattered. Things feel more stable, they feel more controlled, they feel more fluid. And that's the best way I can put it. And I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done to understand who you think you are and to deconstruct that, because I think that's where most of the issues come from. It's deconstructing the idea of where you should be and where has that come from? How have I projected that into the future? What is dragging me forwards, instead of like you moving forward and arriving as you are and kind of stepping with the flow of the universe and stepping with the flow of the rhythm of your life. Like you're trying too hard. You're trying to create the rhythm. But where is that creation coming from? Where is that trying coming from? And like deconstructing parts of your personality and parts of your childhood and parts of your trauma and going back into your past and mindfully sitting with it and looking at it with compassion and empathy. And I think by doing that and having the inner work and being in a constant process with it and a dialect with it, you get to a point where things feel more natural and things flow more. And but it takes a while. It takes a lot of introspection. It takes, I think, pulling back from the world in a certain sense. Like if I look at my own journey, which is all I can relate to, it took me to hide away from the world for a bit, to come inwards and to disregard the external, to come off the social media, to not worry so much about the career or the pursuit of something, and to come back within myself and go through like a dark night of the soul, in a sense of questioning my beliefs, questioning the essence of who I am, kind of questioning my philosophy and outlook on life, going into my childhood, understanding the relationship with my mother and father complex, all of these different moving parts, doing shadow work, doing parts work, understanding my anxiety, sitting with my anxiety, learning how to detach mindfully away from it and observe it with compassion, lots of hours of meditation, all of these things, journaling, CBT, all these different modalities and ways of working with yourself. It took a real introspection, a real lens and a focus inwards to be able to turn up and be who I am outwards. I couldn't have arrived outwards because there were so many layers on top of who I was, so many resistance and barriers that were afraid to meet the world as I was. And as you are, there's barriers there, there's personas, there's masks, and they're all sitting there and they're filtering you from meeting the world as you are. And by doing inner work and understanding them, you kind of deconstruct and get rid of these masks, and eventually you get more to the core of who you are, and you turn up and match the world. And you be in the world instead of doing. Like, you're a human being, not human doing. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to try to do things. You just arrive and you just act as you are. And that's not to say that you don't need discipline in your life and you don't need focus, because that would just be silly. You do need to make sure you have the discipline to turn up to work. You do need the discipline to do the right things at the right times for the exercise routine. But when something feels so unnatural and something feels so unright, there's work to be done there. And so I hope that was helpful, people. I can't talk. And yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you all in the next video.